And throughout the process, we also made sure that this was made public to the public, so then they could provide any insight or feedback relative to where we were every step of the way. So we used Thought Exchange as the platform to receive that feedback. Overall, what we found was that the feedback either aligned to what was already in the plan and was very affirmative, or there were things that we needed to cover downstream that you'll see already now embedded in this this draft of the plan. Last time we met as a board around the strategic plan, we were asked to really kind of dive deep in the KPIs and really provide data around the indicators that we felt were most salient to the school district's work and representative of a 360-degree view of all of the functions of the school district. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Allen, who will take us through the full plan, and then we'll be able to address any concerns that you may have, and we can address those along the way. So you'll see that we go from a high level to something that becomes more and more specific over the course of the document. So we can stop whenever you have any sort of feedback or questions, and we can go from there. So, Dr. Allen?
Yep. Thank you, Dr. Shanoff. And Sheriff, if it's okay with you, I'd kind of like to start with the summary of the entire documents, and then maybe go page by page there to answer any questions or receive feedback from the board. Okay? All right, so the front page, the five pillars there, we're calling those our organizational value drivers, and probably what is most unique about this strategic plan, unlike any that I have ever been a part of or seen before, is the cross-function of all of the areas of the organization working together to improve student achievements. You'll see that throughout. On page one, after the title page, page one includes the district's mission, vision, the areas of focus that the board had previously decided upon for the strategic plan, as well as the operational beliefs. Again, all of this is still in draft form, so especially the new board members, any feedback, we are open and welcome to hearing from the three of you, as well as our established board members. Okay. The next page, page two, not only does it provide definition, we call them purpose statements for each organizational value driver, we have assigned leads to each one of the areas, as well as cross-functional leads. So you'll notice that for, say, achievement, Dr. Clayton, she is our deputy superintendent, ultimately in charge. Thank you, sir. Ultimately in charge of all things teaching, leading, and learning. However, somebody on the operational side, Scott Noble, is the cross-functional lead for her. The purpose statements, like I said, give definition for each one of the organizational drivers. And then the activities under each area are the driving elements for each one of the drivers that the board and staff have decided this is what's really going to move the organization. On the next page, we get more granular with the key performance indicators that support the activities. And then on page 4, as Dr. Shanoff indicated, it gets more granular for each KPI as to what the benchmark data is, or what the benchmark data will be if we don't have benchmark data currently. And then for years 1, 2, and 3, what we feel are SMART goals for us to accomplish.
The important thing to remember is that this is supposed to be a dynamic document. So if after year 1 we've had incredible success and we've actually met year 3's goal, then obviously we would want to go back and revisit those KPIs and determine what would be a more appropriate measurement. Or if we determine that that is something that we have we've arrived and this is something that actually is a strength of the district, do we want to perhaps look at adjusting and maybe replacing that KPI with something else that might be more of an area of improvement, or maybe something that becomes more timely based on whatever factors may exist, whether those factors are things that are coming in from the state, the legislature, or just the local economy. These are all things that we want to consider as we kind of look at this at this document as being a bit more dynamic and not so static.
The final pages just continue with that more granular data than was provided before, Chair. And from that, I would welcome any questions or input from the board.
Is there anyone that has a question they'd like to start with?
I do, but
If you need a minute, I think I might need a few minutes as well, so.
No problem. We're not going anywhere. We're right here.
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
How are these KPIs being addressed? Like, just let's say, like this one, like decrease the percentage of days of teacher absences. Like, how would I know how that's being addressed? Like, what are we gonna do to stop the absences?
Right. So this is the next level of what we would be doing would actually be within the work plan.
Okay,
So, you know, right now we're at this is what we want to accomplish.
okay,
I mean, staff
And we're just
certainly, you know, Dr. Green is here and can speak to it, but, you know, there are strategies to try to incentivize not just teachers, but all of staff to better attendance.
And I think, it goes back to the activities, maybe also within the organizational value drivers, that will help us. And they might not all pertain, so like if you think about that one, that Ms. Bronson brought up, it's under engagement that falls, but maybe some of the activities, to me, I look like are under culture. So while that KPI is there, some activities, if you see Ms. Bronson under the page 2 activities, kind of will show, I think things that they're probably trying to do.
to address that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there are quite a few things that there are a lot of things that we would need to kind of come to an agreement on, and we would need to bargain, especially when we look at decreasing, say, absence rates and what we would need to do to incentivize, or things that we would need to do to kind of further study. So we can actually utilize survey results, for example, to determine what it would take for us to decrease the amount of teacher absences that we have, and hear directly from the teachers about the types of things that they may actually want in order to kind of improve overall attendance. Let's say that on some level we may encounter that absences may be disproportionate on Fridays and Mondays, just for example.
throwing it out there.
Yeah. So if we were to look at Fridays and Mondays, are we specifically within, say, the surveys that we propose to our teachers and our staff members, are we asking specifically about what it would take, what types of things would they like to see within their experience that might change behaviors around Mondays and Fridays?
So I do have some questions on some of the KPIs as I'm looking at them. One of the first ones that I have a question on is the student absences. So I'm just curious as to what the state average is and where we fall there. And then if reducing it by just the 1% every year, I get it, that's a tough one to do. But it also takes me back to, I just saw, and they're gonna probably say, I'm gonna block her from my stories now so that she can't see it, but a student of ours at St. Cloud High, I guess they're voting on like senior most likely to do XYZ, and one of the categories, and I don't know if this is something that's school sanctioned or it's just the students doing it, but it's student most likely to be late to graduation is what this one girl's running for. And this is what she's touting to be voted.
Superlatives, yeah.
She has over 60 absences and she's been tardy to school over 53 times. So they're touting this on their social media, and it just made me think about now this.
So here's what we know. There's a couple things. Chronic absenteeism is what's tracked by the state.
Mm-hmm.
So chronic absenteeism has one definition. Chronic absenteeism is defined by 5 or more unexcused absences, correct?
So there's chronic absenteeism and there's truancy, and those are two different things. Truancy is 5 unexcused absences, 10 unexcused absences in a 30-day period generally. Chronic absenteeism is what Dr. Shandoff was also speaking about, but for a senior in high school, compulsory school age ends at 16.
Right. So, but what we track here in SDOC is average daily attendance. So when we get the report out of Focus every month, all the principals and senior leadership get the average daily attendance. So our average daily attendance looks different than, say, what chronic absenteeism rates may look like. So our average daily attendance hovers somewhere around 92, 93%. When you go to other areas of the state, you'll see other districts around 92, 93. Very rarely will they exceed that. More likely you would see much lower attendance rates. Some of the things that we've already done to try to curb those, we've actually put into rulemaking for your consideration. One of those things is those that are on choice are held to a tighter attendance requirement than those that are not at a school on choice. Because we want to elevate the idea that if you have opted into a choice program, you're opting into that program. And you want to be at that school for that particular program, and we want to elevate that experience and elevate the idea that choice is something that, yes, you all have the opportunity to pursue, but we are going to hold you to a higher standard. So I think that there are different things that we can do throughout the district to incentivize attendance. Obviously, with middle schools, we incentivized attendance in the first the first 12 weeks with the Magic game. So there are different things that we can really do. I think also the phone call home in the morning as opposed to after school has changed attendance as well. Parents are now finding out that their kids are not in school much earlier, and so then if they're supposed to be in school, they're looking for them, and they're showing up magically at school. So I think that there are different things, different strategies that we've employed to try to curb that. I would like to stick on the trajectory that we've been on, where we're incentivizing good attendance as opposed to punishing bad attendance, because we don't know where the state really is going to land when it comes to truancy, and a lot of that is regional. So, one area of the state may have a different take on truancy versus another area of the state. So, what we can control, though, is we can control incentivizing positive attendance.
Going back to what you stated in regards to choice and attendance there, that's something that we already have in policy and we've just not followed through with it, or?
We have a policy, it's not as tight as it needs to be. It actually provides a significant amount of latitude that allows a student to be chronically absent while maintaining their choice status. What we've done is we're proposing that we tighten that up because if you are committing to a choice program, it can't just be, well, we're going to go when we can, or if the traffic's really bad, we're just not going to go. Those types of things.
I have more questions, but I'm opening it up to.
Good. I answered all my questions looking at the KPIs.
Okay, another one I have, and I think you do this on a couple different ones, so for the teacher absences, on that one, decreasing total average by 10%, and I think you've done it on a couple others where you're just saying that, so it's just taking the year prior and you're gonna decrease it by 10% of that year prior.
Of that year prior, yeah.
Okay.
And then again, that may be fluid year to year depending on
Correct.
performances.
And then going down to the one about teachers and staff members participating in professional learning activities that we're at 99.5% now. Just curious as to who's exempt and why are they not doing professional learning at this time?
So we may have people that onboard halfway through the year,
Okay.
and they may not have had the opportunity to engage. There are certain job classifications that maybe only do training at one point in the year or another point in the year. The idea behind getting ourselves to 100% is that we offer more training, more professional development opportunities for everyone. So then even if you come on, halfway through the year, there's still an opportunity for you to engage and grow professionally. So I was actually very surprised that the number was that high, because I was starting to kind of go through the Rolodex of job functions that I wouldn't normally associate with professional development. With all apologies to Mr. Sharma, project manager would be one that I'm not necessarily sure that, they would be falling into, professional development. But then, of course, there's FEFPA. So they may go to the FEFPA conference and get professional development credits there. But if they don't go to FEFPA in the fall, there's not another opportunity to go to FEFPA until the following year.
Okay, understood there. So the next one, going on to work orders. So getting us down after 3 years to 13 days. Is there any way to break things out by type of and tighten up even more so in type of?
We can. We absolutely can. So the system allows for us to go ahead and kind of take certain work orders and categorize them in order of complexity, or whether or not it's work that we do, a contractor does, whether it needs to go to a project. So there are different things to kind of take into account. I think you make a good point in that it does kind of become all-encompassing. For us, we're really, Scott and I have talked about the idea of work orders in excess of 30 days, and that being kind of an aggregate measure, because 30 days would be something that, regardless of whether it's something that is simple that can be repaired by somebody who works in the building, or something that, say, somebody from one of the maintenance crews would do, or something we would contract out, or something that would end up becoming a project, 30 days seems to be kind of that line where no matter what it is, it should be done by 30 days. If you'd like for us to go ahead and kind of extract out the different types of severity or complexity of work orders, we can absolutely do that.
I just think when you think about a classroom teacher or a school and some of the issues that they deal with on a regular basis, and I know I hear from them sometimes in regards to a light bulb or maybe I mean, I think our doors probably have hopefully no more issues since that's a security thing, but anything that's
The daily function.
a daily functional thing that really inhibits them from, in a classroom, a crazy light can distract your students, right? So,
Or a
getting
table
that,
without a leg.
yeah. So just some of
Or
those,
air conditioning.
some of the things I think if we can be a little more efficient than even 13 days.
So no, I think that there's something to be said for that. I mean, there are things that we know have to be taken care of right away. Anything that's health and safety related has to be taken care of within 24 hours. I
Right.
mean, that's something that has to be done. Does it happen 100% of the time? No, and I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you that it does. It doesn't.
Right.
And whenever we address it with Scott, like when we get those emails from classroom teachers or from principals, and it's like, hey, look, we've been waiting on this, we intervene. And when it may be something that even Scott's shop can't do, but it may be something that one of our MEP contractors can do, Scott will very quickly pivot over to Dave and see if we've got somebody on the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing side that may be in a position to address it. These are things that happen a lot in high schools with, putting things down the toilet that shouldn't be going down the toilet. And those are things that really, a lot of times, our maintenance folks can't do. And in some cases, our term service plumbers can't even do. So we then have to kind of find a more industrial solution and have to go to some of Dave's contractors. We can absolutely kind of delineate that out. What we'll do is we'll draft up a couple of different options on what that would look like, and then we'll bring it back to the board for that particular KPI, and then you guys can tell us what you would prefer. We'll leave the current one in place, and then we'll bring maybe 3 or 4 different options as well, and then you guys can tell us which one you prefer.
My last question for now, I think, is on the KPI about our community sessions, that you're increasing the number of sessions each year. I would rather not increase sessions unless it's necessary. I'd rather have quality versus quantity. So better attendance, better feedback than just doing another session to do another session. So if there's a way we can figure out how to streamline that along those regards.
Dovetailing on that too, what counts right now as community sessions? I'm aware of some, but I'm not sure that, when I'm looking at the number, I'm like, dang, that's a lot. So what counts as community sessions?
So what we've had is we've had our town halls, okay, at each one of our high schools, except for Paz. And then we've done kind of deeper dives. Like last spring, we did deeper dives on discipline, on certification, on professional development. So there was one on ops, I think, or maintenance, and so that way, if people wanted to go and speak with a member of cabinet about a particular area, they could. Some were more well attended than others. Even though I think it's fascinating, people don't want to talk about finance. I don't know, but I think that there's probably
Which is totally fine.
totally fine. I'm wondering, you're right. I think that there might be an opportunity for us to do some things virtually, where people don't need to travel.
I don't want to speak on Ms. Castillo's behalf, but since she's not here, I know that's something she's mentioned in the past for some of our parents that can't make it to an in-person session due to work or other responsibilities. So I think that would be interesting too to kind of. I know we had to do things virtually during COVID, but
Yeah, no,
There's
for
a
sure. There should be opportunities virtually for those things to happen. We can certainly do that. I'll say that for the town hall meetings, the Thought Exchange platform has been particularly effective in holding our town hall meetings. So curating the feedback that has come from parents and community members and teachers during those forums is actually what has fed a lot of this plan. So that really became the basis for us to kind of bring to the board initially where we really felt everything was kind of moving. So I think for us, if the idea is to increase quality or increase participation, again, what we'll do is we'll bring back a couple of different options to the board on how that could be measured year over year. Because I think that there's probably some intersection of quality and participation that we can find that would be a sweet spot and something that we can grow from. I like that. I have to say, I've enjoyed the town halls. I've enjoyed staff participation in the town halls. Last year was much more well attended than this year. Even the ones that attended this year, I have to say that we've received a lot more affirming feedback from folks. It doesn't mean that we're doing everything well, but I feel like we're moving in the right direction. So I think that that's been helpful too. We've seen a narrowing of concerns during the course of the town halls, whereas last year we kind of were everywhere. We've really seen things kind of tie in nicely, and a lot of the things actually, they may not necessarily be related to us. So when we talk about issues regarding traffic, when we talk about issues of safety, these are questions and concerns that have come up, and quite honestly, we're complying with safety requirements that have been, that we're compelled to follow. Every school district is going through the same thing, and sitting with the 66 other superintendents last week, everybody is kind of going through the same growing pains with the security requirements. So we just happen to field a lot of those concerns because the town halls were at the beginning of the year.
These town halls, you did them by district, here?
Each one of the high schools, with the exception of paths. So every one of our high schools, there was a night that was scheduled. The first hour was for teachers and staff, and then the second hour was for parents in the community.
And attendance, if you want to say a percentage, like
Percentage, I would say raw numbers. Last year, it was, I would say it would be between 20 and 30 for each one of the sessions. This year, it was probably between 10 and 15.
I think that goes back to what Heather's saying. I think we can be efficient in what we currently have to see how we can increase participation in what we y'all are doing so much already. We don't need to try to go for more meetings. We need to make what we have. In fact, I think we could do less meetings and make them more impactful.
And I almost wonder too, and I don't know if this is part of one of the surveys we do to parents, like certain communities might benefit from a different time of day too.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about St. Cloud or Celebration, some of those communities where they have more parents that are home during the day, they might want to do a morning session or something. So I don't know if there's ways for us to figure out how can we better get parents involved in them to get that feedback versus just having more sessions.
Yeah, I will say that for the parents that did attend, we were able and had concerns, we were able to address them pretty quickly. I mean, there was one where Dave wasn't even there, but Dr. Clayton and I were. It was at Harmony High School. We had a group of parents from St. Cloud Elementary that were there, and they were there specifically regarding playgrounds at St. Cloud Elementary. We called Dave to share the feedback, and Dave said, "Oh, it's already in the works." So
at FSBA, they say you don't mess with the recess moms and you don't mess with the cafeteria ladies. Those are the biggest initiatives that have hit Tallahassee through
exactly.
FSBA in the past.
No, we are big believers in recess, and certainly St. Cloud Elementary will be holding a parade for Mr. Sharma soon. Quite confident.
I think those are all my questions at this time. Any other questions?
Yes, I would like this one. Connecting with undersourced families with community agencies.
Yes.
How are we going about that? I will tell you that I have met with a lot of parents that tell me that they were trying to get into the PEAK program and the spots aren't available. It's hard to contact. They don't hear back. But I was just curious about that one. Like, what are we doing?
Right. And Dr. Barrio?
Yes, so whenever we get a students who, for example, for attendance, students who are either truant or chronic absences, we have social workers that go to the school. We also are starting to implement the 211 call that if a student is not coming to school because they have high anxiety and they're just not getting off of bed, we could actually send a counselor, mental health counselor to the home to help with that anxiety to get them to school. Also, we have our school psychologists who are at schools. Every school has an assigned school psychologist, an assigned mental health worker who can go to the school, who are at the schools weekly and provide those supports. We also have attendance liaisons, social service liaisons who make sure that the students are attending school. And also, if Dr. Shanoff mentioned earlier that we want to provide incentives. Some students also need services. They need that mental health counseling. They need some students who might be a family in transition would need transportation services to help get to school. So we provide all those supports to make sure that there's not any barrier that keeps the student from coming to school, that keeps the student, maybe the student doesn't feel safe, maybe they have that anxiety, and we want to make sure that we provide those supports that they don't necessarily get in the classroom or getting instruction. We can provide it either directly at home with some of the services that we have, or at the school when the student is there.
So, and let me follow up on that. So, we will do mental health referrals.
Yes.
So, if the parents have insurance, if the parents don't have insurance, we're able to do referrals. To the transportation piece, I want to compliment Mr. Noble and Mr. Wheeler in transportation. In order to meet the need of fit families, we have expanded drastically our van fleet. So we actually have a large number of vans that are going out to pick up students and transport them from their homes to their schools when they're in transition. And so that doesn't necessarily exist as well as it does here other places. And we're able to be pretty adaptable when those types of situations arise. I've actually found transportation to be one of the more responsive departments that we have, especially when we've got students that are struggling to come to school. So when there's a, let's say that we have a lot of construction that's taking place, say, over on Boggy Creek Road. We know that there are students that are even within 2 miles of Boggy Creek, or of, let's say, East Lake Elementary, that require a sidewalk. They don't get it. he's able to provide it. We were able to turn that around pretty quickly. But for under-resourced kids, we've got quite a bit that's built out. I think a lot of times it comes down to making sure that we're able to identify them quickly, because they don't always self-identify. So an area of growth for us is probably honing in on how do we bulk up identification of students that really require the services, especially when they don't self-identify, or before it becomes something that we're now triaging a major problem because they've missed 25 days of school. It shouldn't take that to appear on somebody's radar.
I think that parents are asking for help, and I would appreciate even some kind of cheat sheet that tells me what's available, who I can call, because sometimes the parents come straight to us and they want that support and they haven't gone to somebody else.
Absolutely, we can
And I
do
feel
that.
like I'm calling people asking for help, and sometimes they just tell me, just ignore it and maybe it'll go away, and we can't do that anymore.
No, we definitely don't want, the response should never be, well, let's just ignore it.
No, I mean
Yeah.
like people who are needing help and telling me they're going to be homeless within a
Right.
certain amount of time. I don't know who to call, and I just start looking on my phone and trying to find them support, and maybe.
So what we want you to do is we would want you to contact us. And then we can reach out to the parent and we can provide them with access to services that can assist them.
So like specifically for your question about PEEP,
Yeah.
I can direct you towards the people who can tell you exactly what has and has not
Yeah.
taken place and why. I know firsthand that there was a backup there, but I believe that had been resolved, and so if it's not, then I need to know. But likewise, I can help you.
No, and I
help
don't think
answer those
parents know how to
questions.
navigate the system, and
Right.
even people who have been in the district a long time, we don't know how to navigate the system, and there's new people and what's being offered.
So what we can do then, and we can
Even
actually.
making a pamphlet maybe
So,
or
well,
something,
we'll,
I don't
what
know.
we'll do is, and this would fall under community, Dr. Barrio can probably work with Ms. Schaefer's team on ensuring that those resources and those questions are addressed on our website in a very conspicuous way, right? So then people can go ahead and find them rather easily. That's probably a good place for us to start.
Going back to town halls, we used to do town halls along with the 4 county commissioners, and they were very successful. Attendance was high, and I don't know if we're doing that, but we partnered with them.
We're not. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
That's a good
It
possibility.
used to be, and we had 200 people, same location. It wasn't in the school, but it was like community centers and things like that.
Sure.
I think that we can,
Yeah, I mean, first of all, if any of the board members ever want to have a community meeting, we'll make sure that we get that, we publicize it, and we can make that happen. If the board's preference is for me to do those side by side with the county commissioners, I'm happy to do that too. It really just kind of depends what you guys want, and we'll make it happen. I think that the idea of being able to advertise from 2 different bodies actually probably works to our benefit if we're trying to get people to turn out. And then I want to be sure that we don't end up in a situation where we're at the meeting and we're going like this as to who would be the answer to this particular problem. So I think that there's probably an opportunity there for us, and I think it's something we can definitely explore.
Any further questions, team?
So, Madam Chair, if it pleases the board, maybe we could come back at our designated workshop date in either January or February. It depends on what the board would like. And we can actually bring back the areas that you had asked us to kind of clarify or hone in on. So then we have something that's a little bit more clear.
I mean, I think we're pretty much in agreement that this is ready to go.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, we just wanna tighten up those
Tighten up
pieces.
the things.
Okay,
And I
so,
don't know what Ms. Castillo sent your way to, if there's any that.
no, we
from
were
hers.
able to address her questions. Dr.
I know our
Allen,
teams are ready to get going with
I
the
know.
strategic plan.
Dr. Allen, do you wanna quickly run through some of the things that Ms. Castillo asked? I just wanna make sure that we're transparent with all the board members, since we can do that in this environment, in this
Okay.
setting.
Yeah, sure, happy to. So the first question she had, she noticed that under alignment on page 2 was the only organizational value driver that had two leads. And Dr. Shanoff had answered that really was that was a request of the two cabinet members. They both wanted to take charge of alignment. So thank you, Ms. Graver and Mr. Sharma.
There's a comment there, I'm gonna save it though
They're
for
co-leads.
offline, yeah. There's a comment there.
I'm just very interested in this.
Or you're half as good as everybody else, I'm not.
Oh, wow. Got it.
I'm just
That's
kidding,
on
I'm
the
just kidding.
record.
I couldn't contain myself. I'm just kidding. No, I like the idea.
See what gets done.
The idea is that, I mean, I like the idea that we've got these cross-functionals, right? So if I have cross-functionals that wanna co-lead, I think it's really great, so.
Yeah, a couple of the other highlights, Ms. Castillo had asked about KPI, the KPI under social media, not only to increase the outreach, the reach of the social media, but then also potential, for new forms of media outlet as well. So Ms. Schaefer agreed that would probably be a good addition.
So what's the new form? We going TikTok? What are we doing?
All right, so
We'll come up with something.
so she just had a question about the 8 to 10% of reserves, and that has to do with the fund balance. And
Performance-based contracts.
oh yes, you want to handle that one?
So she had a question about performance-based contracts.
Mhm.
So performance-based contracts is something that we need to look very closely at. We engage in a lot of different contracts with different vendors, and we don't necessarily have any teeth that kind of provide the district some protection. Let's say that the vendor doesn't meet the standard that we expect. So a performance-based contract ties the district to meet a certain threshold and also ties the vendor to meet a certain performance target as a result of that usage. So it becomes something where we become mutually accountable. So let's just say we're talking about an intervention program for ELA. There may be specific usage requirements that a vendor says if a student uses this 5 lessons, if they do 5 lessons a week, then we can safely say that the student will increase 2 performance levels, in reading on their standardized test. Then we would be held accountable to doing the 5 lessons a week and making sure that gets done. They would be accountable to the two grade level increases, or the 2 levels achievement level increases, and then that's how everybody gets paid. And so if they don't meet the target, then it'll be one amount of money. If we don't hit the target for usage, then we didn't do our part. So there might be another dollar amount. And then if, let's say, we use it and we exceed the performance, then there may be another threshold that the vendor may be entitled to. So there's something in it for all parties. It's not just, well, whatever the district does, and we end up paying the same amount of money. I just don't think that we can hold teachers accountable for their performance or anybody within the district accountable for their individual performance, yet we're expending millions of dollars on these programs and really not holding them accountable for their performance. It's got to happen. So that's where performance-based contracting comes in. So we want to go down the road and do this once and then scale up from there. We think that that would be a good place for us to start.
If I can orient you to page 6, the second KPI, Ms. Castillo, this might be a good point of discussion for the four of you. She had asked, in terms of enrollment of students from other options such as charters, trying to bring those into our regular public schools, she would recommend that we shoot for an 80% goal of year one rather than a 1% increase for each year.
I like aiming high.
You're on page 6.
Page 6, second KPI from the top, sir. Staff had set a 1% increase for each year. Ms. Castillo is suggesting that we try to be 80%. Okay. All right, and I do want to really like the idea that we are moving to increase our school grade. So under achievements, I can orient in the top of page 7. There's a distinction that I really wanted to make with you guys. I'm going to take the opportunity now. On the top KPI, it lists all the performance indicators based on school grade, and this is how our district is measured. These components include its entire district, so as it's measured by the state of Florida, it includes not only the regular public schools but also our charters. So sometimes when you look at this data, for instance, the graduation data here from the last year was 85%, but you'll notice in the document it references our graduation rate being 86. That's because when we take out the charter schools, our graduation rate was slightly higher. So when you look at this data as to other data, that's something that we would ask that you keep in mind. But to Ms. Castillo's point, we are bound and determined under the leadership of this board and Dr. Shanoff, we are bound and determined to reach that A.
Yes. Love it.
Yeah, and then graduation rate, our graduation, we feel very strongly about where graduation rates are headed within our schools. Again, this is something where I think we're going to end up having to delineate Osceola County aggregated with charters included, and then we're going to have to pull out and it just be our schools, so then you can actually see and the public can see the comparisons. Very proud of the work that the high school team has done in the past year. That was actually the first thing that we kind of went in and attacked as a group, was looking at graduation and graduation rates, knowing that we could definitely get more kids across the stage. And under Dr. Evans' leadership, we've seen a substantial amount of progress in a single year. So looking forward to all that getting finalized and reporting out after the new year when all of that goes public. I think it'll be a good reason for us to celebrate.
Any further questions?
No, ma'am.
All right, at this time, this workshop is adjourned. Thank
Thank you.
For any other feedback that you have in the future, feel free to email me.